G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza, and today we're going to be drawing Link from the Zelda series. I'm going to be drawing him in a bit of an action pose, so we're going to start off with the head, which is usually a good place to begin with, and we're really just, as usual, starting off with sketchy construction lines. So something like that will represent what the skull head's shape is. From here, I'm going to start drawing in his torso, and I'm going to have him in a crouched position. So by drawing in these rough blocky shapes and using lines to show where the center of these shapes is, we can get a bit of an idea as to how he's going to end up looking. So with the sword, because he's kind of aiming the sword at the viewer, it gets a little bigger towards the end, and it's actually going to look shorter than if it were just kind of shown at full length. So now that we've got the basics of the blocking of the body in, you notice I haven't really done the arm. That's because we've got the shield here. So I'm going to rough in where the shield is going to go. Again, just kind of doing the very rough form like this, and we're going to really refine that later on. And then we can start adding things around it. So we have around his torso, we're going to have the belt that holds the sheath on his back. So I've got the roughs put in here now, and I can use this sort of silhouette as a guide to start filling in the details. Now I've used a pencil. Usually I'd use a lighter pencil, like a colored pencil, something like a blue or a green, because then I can kind of add the details without it looking too messy. But I'm going to be doing that with my pencil. So it just means I'm going to be working a little darker, and then I'm going to be ready for the line work. So the first details we're going to draw are going to be the details on the shield, because this is the foremost part in the picture. It's in front of everything. So I won't get into a huge amount of detail, but I'm really just going to put in a little more refined attention to the areas that have certain shapes, and then of course we have the crest in the middle, but I'm just going to kind of draw a few little shapes to represent where they go, and I'll come back to those later. Otherwise, the main things are stuff like the hair, which we have this sort of really cool swiping motion to the hair, really kind of adds a lot of movement to the character. And now we can work with details of the face. He has a very little sort of nose, much more anime-like obviously, with its origins in Japan. And now we can start to really refine the shape of the character. So while we had a rough sort of blocked in silhouette, we can add things like creases in the clothes, we can add the refined lines to the edges of the outfit. Alright, so I've done my roughing in, I've got all my sketch there, and now I'm going to use some fine liners to add the line work to the piece. So for the first portion of this next segment, I'm taking a 0.2 Uniball fine line pen, and I'm going over my sketch work and just making sure I can keep my lines as refined and nice looking as possible. When you're drawing on top of grey lead lines that you've already done, it helps to have a piece of paper or a smudge guard that you can have under your pinky finger, so that whenever you draw over top of your work, it doesn't smudge the grey lead you already have either on your hand or on the paper. So I've done all the basic line work in the 0.2. Now I'm going to use a 0.1 and go over some fine details such as the crest on the shield and just little bits here and there, things on the belt and things on the face. And then I'm going to go over the whole thing around the edges of the main silhouettes of the character with this. This is a Pentel pocket brush. This thing has bristles and ink, and it is just amazing. I've done the finer details and I'm ready to use the Pentel pocket brush to do the outlines now, but before I do that, I'm going to use my eraser and get rid of all the pencil lines that I have on the piece. So you can see how just getting rid of the pencil lines has already made this a very refined, almost finished looking piece, but this Pentel pocket brush outline is really going to make the whole piece pop. The other cool thing about doing this is that you can see the faults of the piece more clearly once you've erased the line work. So going over it with a thicker outline also gives you an element of control, because in some of those areas you can kind of edge out those mistakes. So for example, there's this area here right on the side of the head that looks a little wobbly and pops out in an annoying way. So with my outliner, I can do this, and it just kind of disguises that little mistake that I wasn't happy with. And the last thing I'm going to do is color it using these markers. So these are Copic markers, and they're really cool for doing some really sort of traditional color stuff. So I'm going to have a play with it. I don't have all the colors available to my disposal. I still have to get a box of Copic markers, but for now we can use these and do the best job we can. Now remember, if you don't have bleed-proof paper, you're going to want to put some paper behind the paper you're using. So I have a piece of A4 copy paper behind this sheet in the sketchbook. So unfortunately, I only have about half the colors I need for this picture in the markers, so I'm actually going to use some of my Derwent pencils to do the rest of the picture. So if you're forced to mix mediums, like I am in this situation, and you're mixing pencils with textures, just make sure that your pencil work is just really, really solid. So press quite hard on the right colors that you want to pick, and in the end, it'll turn out okay. Hopefully. And there we go, I have finished. This is Link from The Legend of Zelda, and this was requested in the chat of the live stream on Twitch, but the person who requested it, I misspelt the name of and can't find in the history of the chat, so bugger. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I won't be able to credit this one, but this is Link from The Legend of Zelda. Thanks for joining me for this Let's Draw. If you want to join future streams for Let's Draw videos, make sure to click the link in the description or on the screen to check out my Twitch page where I do some streaming of drawing and then occasionally gaming. Thanks for joining me, ladies and gentlemen, and until next time, I'll see you later.